Hi, my name is Maceo Lewis. Welcome to ML Sports Talk. Hit the subscribe button on ML Space Sports Space Talk and no underscores so you can see more of my commentary on sports. Today, I want to delve into the history of Game 7s in the NBA in particular because we have Game 7 coming up, Pacers Thunder later this afternoon. And basically, what I'm looking for, I'm trying to decide for myself what is the best Game 7 of all time. Okay. And so it's kind of hard to answer that question because obviously I wasn't alive in most of the Game 7s. So mostly my analysis is going to focus on the more recent ones in the 2000s. But I just do want to delve into some of the history of Game 7 and give you some facts that you may not know. So just for some context, so there's been 19 Game 7s. Well, this one today will be the 19th Game 7s, but before that there were 18 Game 7s since 1951. What I was looking for is, has there ever been a Game 7 that ended on like a buzzer beater? Okay, so like the scenario I'm talking about is last second, the score is either tie or the team that's shooting is down, and the shooting team takes the shot and takes the lead, game over, or the score is tied and game over, done, game's over, the shooting team wins. That's the kind of buzzer beater that I'm thinking of in the Game 7. To my surprise, there's never been a ending like that. They've come close to it. From what I've seen in my research, in 1955, the Syracuse Nationals and the Fort Wayne Pistons, that score ended 92-91. But it was a game-winning free throw, but it was like 12 seconds left in the game when that free throw was made. So not quite the ideal of what I was looking for. And of course, people talk about the Don Nelson shot from 1969. Well, that wasn't necessarily the game-winning shot that I'm thinking of. That shot happened at about a minute and a half left in the game, and the score was 105, 102 when that happened, but the final score of the game was actually 108, 106. So the next thing that I'm thinking of, if absent the ideal, is okay, what's the closest score? Okay, I mentioned the closest score just now, 92-91, the 1 point game, 1955. The second closest would be the 2 point one. That's the 1969 one with Don Nelson, and 1966 also 95-93. And then in 1962 is a 3 point margin of victory in 1962 and 1988. So the next one would be in terms of the idea of what would be the best Game 7. When you have in the fourth quarter, you have multiple lead changes. You have the losing team scoring close as the game ends, as opposed to the last time they scored earlier in the fourth quarter. So those are the kind of factors I'm looking at in deciding what that factor measures like whether the outcome of the game is in question. Okay, so if the outcome of the game is in question when you're talking about multiple lead changes, or the losing team they score like close towards the end of the game, to me that signifies a better Game 7 than other Game 7s. Okay, so I want to run down. I'm just going to run down the 2000s because I don't have much information on games before that. I took time off when Jordan retired, and so I didn't watch the Rockets and Knicks game. And I was just a young kid in the 1980s, so I mean that stuff didn't really hit me as much as I was an adult. So I'm just going to focus on the 2000s. So in the 2000s, we have 2025 Spurs Pistons, 2010 Lakers Celtics, 2013 Miami Spurs, and 2016 Warriors Cavs. Okay, so in 2005, the score was tied at the beginning of the fourth quarter, 57 up. But once Manu Ginobili hit at the 10-minute mark, he hit a 2 point jumper. It was 61-59, and the Pistons, they never tied or took the lead after that. Okay, the last Piston score was from Rip Hamilton at 10.7 seconds left, but that made the score 79-74. And then the final score was 81-74 Spurs. In 2010, Boston was up 57-53 at the beginning of the fourth quarter. They remained ahead until about the 7:28 mark when back then he was known as Ron Artest. He tied the score at 61 up with a free throw. The Lakers then took their first lead in the fourth quarter at the 5:56 mark when Kobe made two free throws, making the score 66-64. And the Lakers basically held their lead for the final score was 83-79 since that Kobe made those two free throws. The last score from Boston was with 16.2 seconds left when Rondo made the three, making it 81-79. So he cut it close, but then after that, I believe it was Sasha Vujic just made two free throws, and that pretty much ended it after that within those 16 seconds. So 2013, Miami was up at the beginning of the fourth quarter, 72-71. They held the lead the entire fourth quarter. The Spurs got as close as two, but they never actually tied or took the lead in that fourth quarter. Kawhi made a three with 2 minutes left, making it 90-88. But that was the last score, not only of that game, but that the Spurs ever made in the NBA Finals up until the present 2025, because the Spurs never got back to the finals. So the final score was 95-88. And then the Warriors, they were up in 2016. They were up 76-75 at the beginning of the fourth quarter. LeBron James makes a 2-point jumper at about the 11:33 mark. That gave the Cavs a lead at 77-76. The Cavs remained ahead until about the 6:56 mark, where Steph Curry hits a three, tying the score at 83-83. Klay Thompson makes a 2-point jumper at the 6:16 mark, so the Golden State took the lead 85-83. The Cavs retook the lead at the 4:52 mark, where LeBron made a three-pointer, making it 89-87. And then Klay tied it up at the 4:39 mark at 89-89. So here's the interesting thing. After Klay made that jumper, not just the Warriors, but both teams didn't remain scoreless for about over 3 minutes until about the 53-second mark, and that's where Kyrie hit that clutch three-pointer, making it 92-89. And then the final score was 93-89. So the Cavs, they actually obviously won the game, but the Warriors, they didn't score until for the last 4 minutes and 39 seconds of that game. So finally, when we're looking at what's the best finals, we're going to look at storylines, the drama. So the more recent one, the Cavs, they were down 3-1. They forced a Game 7. After that, the infamous Draymond Green suspension from Game 5. They went up to Game 7 against the 73-9 Warriors, which at that point was the best record in the league, even better than the 72-10 Bulls. And so what was on the line was whether the Warriors were going to get the job done like the Bulls did, solidify themselves as one of the best, teams of all time in terms of record. The Cavs beat them, and that was the first and only Cavs title. It was the first, I believe it was the first loss for Curry as well. 2013, Miami wins its second straight title. That was Duncan's first loss. The Spurs lost first loss as a franchise, as well as Kawhi and a bunch of players on the Spurs as well. In 2010, Kobe, that was his Boston moment, because the Lakers and the Celtics have a rivalry going back to the 60s, and this was like Kobe's moment to solidify himself in Laker lore by beating Boston in Game 7 at the Lakers. This is the first time they did meet, and the Celtics won that first matchup, and I believe it was 2008. And then, of course, there's a story out there, infamously, Ron Artest, meets Kobe at the locker room and basically says he's going to join the Lakers and help them beat them the next time. They don't face Boston the next year. It was Orlando that the Lakers beat, but then this was the year in 2010 when they met Boston in the finals. And we get Boston Game 7. And this is the one where Kobe got one more than Shaq, because remember, Shaq went to Miami, he got one more than Kobe. They had 3 together. Then Shaq got 4, and then Kobe got 1 and tied him with Orlando, and then he got the 5th one against the Boston Celtics. So that's the storyline there. And then finally in 2005, what I can say about Spurs and Pistons was that the Spurs and the Pistons were the last 2 finals winners. The Spurs, I believe they gentlemen swept the Nets, and then the next year the the Pistons gentlemen swept the Lakers, and so the last two winners meet in the game, well, in the NBA Finals, and they get to a Game 7. And this was actually the first Game 7 for the Spurs and Duncan in the finals. So that's basically what the story is for the last four Game 7s. For me, I think it's tough between 2010 and 2016. Look, I'm gonna admit my bias. I'm a Laker fan, so I'm gonna edge towards 2010. But what I can say objectively about that game is that the last scoring of the losing team was 16 seconds left in the game. So the outcome of that game was still a little bit in question heading to the final minute. Whereas with the 2016 game, they had more lead changes. I give them that throughout the fourth quarter. But there was that huge scoring gap with the 4 minute and 39-minute mark, and the Warriors didn't score at all down the stretch. So look, I'm gonna give the edge to the 2010, but I have no qualms if someone picks, the Cavs and the Warriors game, Game 7. Now heading into today's game, Thunder Pacers. What's it gonna take for either of these teams to top? Look, if this game ends on the last second shot, a game-winning shot by, like, let's say Halliburton or SGA, hats off. I would call that the best Game 7 ending ever. Okay, because that's never been happening in the NBA Finals history. So if that happens, I give my hats off to that. Also, if that doesn't happen, if there's like multiple lead changes heading into the final minutes or final seconds of the fourth quarter, that would carry great weight for me in terms of calling it the best Game 7 ever. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. I'm looking forward to seeing this game. I'm in Vegas right now. I'm about to head over to T-Mobile to see Caitlin Clark play. But I will definitely be watching this game, Game 7, likely at one of the sports books or something like that. So anyway, that's my thoughts on the Game 7 history and my thoughts on what's the best Game 7. Again, I'm only picking recent history. I think it's disingenuous if I call something I've never seen before as the best Game 7 ever. I mean, that's like saying I think a movie that came out in the 1940s that I've never seen is the greatest movie of all time if I've never seen the movie. It's like, I'm only going to make my judgment based on what I've seen, what I lived, and so that's not saying it's the greatest of all time. It's just saying it's the best that I've witnessed. Okay, so anyway, that's my thoughts on Game 7 history. Let me know what your thoughts are if you have any more insight on Game 7 history. Again, hit the subscribe button so you can see more of my commentary on sports at ML space sports, ML space sports at ML space sports space talk. ML space sports space talk, no underscore at YouTube. Hit the subscribe button so you can see more of my commentary on the world of sports.